Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kay Powell, and I am the CEO of Speedy Tax Services. And I am joined today with Donald R. Williams, and we are here to talk to you and give you an overview of business structure. You know, it's interesting that since I've been doing taxes, and that's been a long time, but really has come to our attention that people really don't understand how to set up their business structure or what their business, how it exists. So Black Small Business Association, we had a whole bunch of conversations and we were talking about, and they get a lot of calls and I get a lot of calls. And we said, how can we help small businesses in planning and understanding their structure, especially with all the things that are going on with the pandemic, all the federal resources that are going on, and just being established. And what we found out is so many people lack understanding. And so we decided to, as being a great support to you, that we would provide education. So I'm going to talk about the tax part, and Attorney Williams is going to talk about more of the structure or the law liability part of it, right?
Yeah.
Did you want to introduce yourself so I don't just do all this talking?
Sure, no problem. Again, my name is Donald R. Williams Jr. I am a practicing attorney in the state of California. My practice areas are employment, labor and employment law. That's the main area, as well as some others. But right now, the labor and employment law will be the main focus, as tonight we will be talking about business structures and the liability aspect, as well as the tax aspect of those business structures.
So this is real exciting because, you know, I really have to really give a shout out to Black Small Business Administration. Their efforts is to bring expertise. I have over 35 years of experience. Small business is something I really like to do. You know, I'm the West Coast guru. So this workshop is to help you. So I hope that you're tuned in, that you interact with us. If you have questions, put it in your comments, because we would like to help you. But what we thought is we're going to have a couple of series. This is like series 1. There will be a couple more workshops coming up on Thursday and next Thursday. And what we're going to do is we're going to like really break this down, try to simplify it, try to give you at least an understanding of what direction you're going, or the direction you should go. So this is, I think this is like commendable for a small business, Black Small Business Association. So anyway, again, Kay Powell. So let's talk about the overall business structure. You know, when I talk to my clients, especially with the small business grants and loans and everything going out, there's this one question they ask you: what is your business structure? And most people don't know it. So we thought we would give like an overview, not deep, just an overview. And then we would, on the next couple of business workshops, that we would actually go deep into it. So there is a number of structures. I'll talk about a couple and we'll let Donald, so this don't be me doing all the talking, but to make this interesting and make this fun. So, you know, of course, the main one is sole proprietorship. Like, there are many of our clients that they are individual contractors, sole proprietor, and they really don't know what they are. And when they're asked, are you a sole proprietor? Everybody be like, what? Are you an independent contractor? What does that mean, being a sole proprietor? A sole proprietor means exactly that. It's one individual. Now, your one individual could be if it's a husband or wife and you're following together, but it's one individual that's out there performing a skill or service as a small business, and you are your own boss. Means you punch your own lights, you set your own hours, and you provide some type of skill or talent for a client. That's a sole proprietor, and you're designating yourself as that. And if you earn so much money, that whoever you're working for will give you a 1099, or the income will be claimed on your Schedule C. So if you're a sole proprietor, independent contractor, you set your own hours, and you have some skills and talent, and that's what we consider. You're in control of your hours. You're in control of how much you charge, and you're in control. You're the management. You're the CEO of your organization, and you're not registered as you're not registered with Secretary of State, anything, and you have personal liability for your business.
Exactly.
So maybe I can have you talk about a little bit quickly about that Am I right, Donald?
That is absolutely correct. So as a sole proprietorship, one of the cons or the negatives of being a sole proprietorship is that you are personally responsible for the business debts and liabilities. And so if your company was to get sued or your business were to get sued, they would be suing you as an individual since you are a sole proprietor. You are
That's good.
an incorporated business. Yes.
Right. So you're a sole proprietor. So all y'all been asked, am I a sole proprietor? I'm an independent contractor. You are personally responsible for any debt, any liability. It's all on you. The bottom line is you. So that's what a sole proprietor is. Now there's ways you can protect yourself. Of course, you can have insurance, all of that, but that's what a sole proprietor is. So the next thing is, so we're going through the business structures. There's several business structures. Remember, this is a high view of it. We're not going into extreme details. We just kind of want to get you familiar and comfortable so that you can see what you're doing. So the next one is, which I have been seeing a lot, is a LLC, a limited liability company, so corporation. So everybody wants to be an LLC. And I'll be saying, who told you to be an LLC? Well, I don't know. I just signed up for an LLC because it sounded good. I mean, like that's the trend right now. Everybody want to be an LLC, but a lot of people don't understand what an LLC is. So an LLC is a limited liability corporation, and it's what we call a pass-through entity. So most people would set up an LLC if you wanted to separate your personal and your business assets. If you wanted to protect your personal assets, protect your personal stuff, an LLC could be a way to go where everything is done by your business. Your business is an LLC. And so if you don't commingle these funds, if you keep them separate and you got an LLC, now LLC has to be set up with Secretary of State. You can't just say, I'm an LLC. No, you got to do some stuff to be set up as an LLC. You got to go and you need an EIN number, which you could have an EIN number as a sole proprietor as well. But you need an EIN number. You need to set up paperwork at, you need articles of incorporation. You need to set up paperwork at Secretary of State. That's for California people. And then you become an LLC. Now, an LLC is a pass-through entity, meaning that you don't pay taxes on your LLC. I'm doing the tax part. Y'all know I'm doing the tax part. That's what I do. That's my expertise. So you don't pay taxes. All it is informing IRS. The LLC is informing IRS of how much you made. And then what you do is you pass through either the profit or the loss to your Schedule C, which will be your personal taxes. So why, Donna, would somebody want to set up an LLC versus, and we're just going to talk about this really. No, sure. I don't want to get into too much, but an LLC, do you have anything to add that's be different for an LLC versus a sole proprietor?
Sure. There aren't really that many negatives to setting up an LLC as opposed to a sole proprietorship. You do get the on the liability side of it, you definitely get the protection that you otherwise would not get as a sole proprietorship. You don't have personal responsibility or personal liability for the business debts or the liabilities. And so the LLC does give you that protection so that if someone decides to sue your business, your LLC, they would not be coming after you as an individual. Your LLC would be the that barrier between you and the person suing. And so your business, the LLC, would be the entity being sued, if that makes sense. So yes, if you're going to compare it to a sole proprietorship, yes, the LLC is the better route. And what you will find is that an LLC in many cases is one of the best ways to go. The only downside I would say of an LLC is it's probably more expensive to set up than some of the others. For example, it is definitely more expensive to set up than a sole proprietorship, and possibly some other ones that we'll go into further down the road.
Yeah. So now, please, okay, I'm trying to get you this understanding of the business structure. We talked about the sole proprietor, okay, and the personal liability, and now we talked about the LLC. So somebody say, why are you LLC, then you can say, because I wanted to protect my personal assets. I wanted to make sure I separated them. And, we'll talk about the pros and cons more when we go into helping you understand it. But so, okay. So I want y'all to track. We've taken care of two business structures that we talked about. And we said, does Donald do consultations regarding whether or not to do an LLC?
Yes,
That's
I do.
For you, Donald.
Ricky Bradley. Yes, I do do consultations regarding the proper business structure for your business. And so if you'd like to contact me, there's my email address, Donald at Reed Williams. It should be reedwilliamslaw.com. And then my phone number is 916-281-9337. I can also be reached at my website, www.reedwilliamslaw.com.
See, I'd call them if I were you, because they're not putting those slums on here. Anybody that Selena believes in or BSBA, they wouldn't be on here if they was sloppy. So I would certainly consider him. The problem that I find with business structure is that people don't get the proper consultation, the proper advice. They ask somebody, don't even have a business structure. You down there in at the barbecue pit asking somebody about whether you should have an LLC, and they don't have one. So you need to make sure that you understand that. So there is a question on there about the tax differences in the benefits of the sole proprietor versus LLC. So John, tune in. We're going to be covering that on our next session. Yes, the next Thursday, I think it's the 22nd. But I'm not sure. We'll get that date. So we'll be talking about the tax benefits for sole proprietor versus LLC. Right now, I'm going to try to keep it at a high level because I really think that just even knowing what they mean is so important before you even figure out what the structure is. So that's critical. So we've talked about sole proprietor. We talked about LLC. So Don, I know that there is some very significant differences between, an S Corp. So the S Corp is, man, I love the S Corp. But, if you're not making a lot of money, I really suggest people, if you're making like more than 25,000, or if you have a vision of that, you think that your business is going to blow up, of course, I'm not, I can't make recommendations, but I can say that the S Corp is definitely a great way to go. So what does an S corporation mean? So an S corporation, that's interesting question that a lot of people don't know, but they go and set up one. So an S corporation is also basically like a pass-through entity in the fact that you don't pay IRS taxes. When you file your 1120 S Corp, you don't pay taxes to IRS on the S Corp, but you do pay taxes as being a share. If you are a shareholder in an S Corp, what happens is whatever the profit is, it flows through to your personal taxes, and then you pay taxes on that at whatever tax bracket you're in. The great and wonderful part about it is that in S Corp, whatever the profit is, you don't have to pay a self-employment tax. So you don't file that on your Schedule C. You actually file it, you get a K1, and you file it in on your Schedule E. So the tax significance in that is huge. I mean, we're talking about a 15.3% difference. And the shareholders, and I believe, am I right, Donald, you can have like 100 shareholders?
Yes, that's accurate. So there's a limit of shareholders that you can have under the S Corp, and I believe it is 100. You definitely don't want to get outside of the limitations for the S Corp, because then you'd be heading into the ground of C Corp. So definitely, make sure that you're complying with the laws that are significant to a S Corp, both tax wise and on the more of the procedural side of it. But as far as the liability for the S Corp, and this also goes with the C Corp, as well as the professional corporations, which are made up of shareholders, directors, and officers, there is no personal liability for the shareholders or the directors or officers. Again, this is like we were discussing with the LLC. There is a barrier of protection. There is no personal liability for the individuals who act as the owners of the business?
So that's a very good question, Lena. So I'm gonna finish shareholder, and I'm gonna go back because Lena has some questions about the different levels of LLC. But I wanted to kind of like stay with the S corp, and then I'll swing back around, Lena, and discuss that. One of the great things about, one of the things you do need to know, any of these S corp, LLC, there is a Secretary of State filing. So you don't just get an EIN number and say I'm an LLC. So what happens is the people go to IRS, they file, say I have intentions of being an LLC. IRS issues a EIN number, but that's not the end of it. Then you got to get the articles of incorporation. You got to go to Secretary of State, and you have to file for your LLC or your S corp or your C corp at Secretary of State. So I have some people, they just come up with an EIN number and said, I'm an LLC. No, you're not, because you got to still file with Secretary of State, which also incorporates a whole bunch of different things. What happens to Secretary of State? If you don't file a statement of information every 2 years, updating the officers and all that, if you don't pay your franchise tax, $800 minimum, whether you make money or not, then you could be suspended. But so a lot of people, they go and they want to be an LLC, but they don't want to pay the $800. So Hudson McDaniel, hi Hudson, says, can you have one EIN for two sole proprietor businesses? Yes, you can. Is that correct, Donald?
Can you have
I'm not aware of that, huh?
You have two EINs?
No, one EIN for two businesses.
For two sole proprietorship businesses? No.
You need an EIN for each one, or you could use your Social Security as a business, but you would have to separate. If the businesses are doing different kind of work, you would have to file two Schedule Cs or two. You can't commingle those together. You're gonna have to have like two separate ones. So if you want to be clean on it, you can use either your Social Security or EIN number, but you can't use one EIN number doing all these different businesses. Correct. You've got to keep them in the category that they are. And as we were saying, so that was a good question, Donald. I'm sorry, Hudson. That was a great question. A lot of people, I've had that too, where they've used one, and no, you can't do that, especially if you're doing two different kind of services, two different kind of businesses. The IRS says you can have multiple businesses under one EIN as a sole proprietor and cannot have multiple EINs. The IRS says you can have multiple businesses. Well, they may say that, I don't know, but I know that trying to operate that way.
I'll tell you this. The best way to operate is to keep it clean and to not commingle across businesses, just like you shouldn't across personal and business income, as well as even your expenses. And so keep it separate. That's the best way. It'll keep it clean.
Yeah. So okay. So, we're talking about best practices here. We're talking about trying to make sure that your business stays clean. So yes, you can get up to 5 do up to 5 with one. But I'm telling you right now, if you want to have best practices, if you want to have a solid structure set up, I recommend that you keep them split if their businesses are really different. That's what I recommend. Now, IRS can tell you one thing, but then all of a sudden everything starts getting messed up. If you go through an audit and you're trying to show what this for and what this for, and you're trying to do different things, you can cause a problem unless you're just an excellent business person. Unless you've got all, if you went to the bank, they're not going to let you set up all these different accounts under one EIN number. So, I would recommend, and Donald says the same thing, that the cleanest way, the best practices is to have like a separate EIN for handling your business. Now, you can follow IRS and you can do that, but I'm telling you what best practices I think is. So the S corp. So yes, Donald.
Real quick, I'd like to give an example of the same business having different EINs, and it's actually not necessarily having multiple EINs. When I first started, my business was a C corp, and as a C corp, I had an EIN as a C corp. When I changed to an S corp, I had a different EIN number. And so, yes, it sounds like I have multiple EINs for the same business, but now that I'm an S Corp, I'm now using this one EIN, and it's not going to change. I'm not going to change my S Corp EIN, and I am no longer using my C Corp EIN.
That's a good example, Donna. I appreciate that. So I do know that what I do is I function at the level. I try to advise people at the level that's the least complicated, that causes the least problems. And even though, there may be, some recommendations, but if you've been through an audit, if you've had to deal with people, you want to operate in a level that you can defend your business, that you can make sure that your business is sustainable. So this is what I would recommend for it. So let's talk about, you're welcome. Let's talk about a C Corp. So before I go that, I'm sorry, there was a question from Lena and I want to swing back, and she said, is there different levels of LLC? Yes, there are, because there is a single member. We also have a partnership, and then you also have multiple member LLC. So there is a different levels of LLCs that you can have. And so when we talk about that next week, we will touch on what the different levels of LLC is, but we're going to slightly talk about partnerships. We're not going to go, because I don't see a lot of that. I mean, there is, and it's tough to have a partnership LLC. I had two young ladies yesterday that they are fighting and they're suing each other. And, I had to do documents, and they wanted me to black out and redact their social and their information, and they're going at it neck and neck. And so they were best friends. And so it saddened my heart to see that LLC, what they were going through. So we will talk about it though, but there is multiple levels depending on how many members are in the LLC. So we've touched on sole proprietorship. We've touched on LLC and S corporation. So there is another structure. There's still more we haven't finished, and that is the C corporation. So the C corporation, that's the big baby. That's the corporation that is actually tough because of the fact that you have to pay taxes on the C corporation. The C corporation, you can have as many shareholders as you want, but you got to pay taxes on that part of it. And then after that, then if whatever flows through on your personal tax, you got to pay taxes on that. So what they call that is double taxation for a C corporation. So, but if you see yourself going to be huge and whatever, you may look into a C corporation, especially if it's going to protect your assets. If you see that the S corporation is really not where you want to be, that you want to be at a C corporation, I think that is a way to go. Now that's managed by board of directors as well, and you don't have a liability. There's no personal liability, and also that's the Secretary of State filing. You have to file there as Secretary of State, and you can't get away with it. $800 minimum, but you are taxed now at the entity level. This is the one where you are taxed at the entity level. It doesn't flow through, it does, but it's double taxed, but you're taxed at the corporate level and at the individual level.
We just had a question from, I believe, Mark Gaskins. Hello, Mark. Your question was, how do you set up a syndicate under an LLC? What models or templates can we follow? Okay, so this actually goes back to that one EIN. This will actually answer both of those questions. So having the one EIN for multiple businesses. So there are businesses out there that are operating under one EIN, but they have DBAs, so doing business as, and then they have several different businesses operating under this parent company or the parent corporation. And so the parent corporation has this EIN number that all these other doing DBAs are operating under. And that, yes, that is possible. And then as far as your question, Mark, you can set that up. It is possible to set something like that up where you do have a parent corporation and then have, or parent company, and then have subsidiary businesses or subsidiary companies operating under the parent?
Thank you. That was a good question. And that was a great answer, Donald. You are on it. I hope that was able to help you, Mark. And if you really need more information, you can get consultation. You can call Donald. So we're not here soliciting for you to call us. We're hoping that we're supporting you, but definitely we're available if you need us. But this is an information workshop to provide additional information to you to just help you to be able to answer your questions. Really think about what kind of business structure you have and to really think about what direction you want to go. And you don't think about just today, think about tomorrow. Have a vision and where you see your business is going. I always tell people, operate like you're going to be huge. Operate like you're going to blow up and you're going to be a big organization. Don't, there is a possible now, which is really awesome, is there's possible to change. Like say you say I'm a sole proprietor, then you see it's catching on. You can change your structure. You are not like pegged into there and that's going to be it. You can change your structure. But I'm telling you, talk to some experts. Think about vision. Where are you going to go? Try to think about tomorrow, where you see it's going to go, and then stay open. Don't be like, if you're making 100,000, 200,000, you need to look at some other options if you're a sole proprietor, because you are paying some taxes that's undue. You can take yourself to a structure that will help you in regards to the taxation on you. That self-employment is huge. So, don't be stubborn. Don't be like, oh, that's what I'm going to be. And don't be ignorant. Ask questions. I tell everybody, ain't no stupid question. Ask questions. If your tax person won't answer your question, get you another tax person. Because if you go to H&R Block at the lowest level, they don't know none of this. That's like going to the bank and the teller and asking them about investments. They don't know none of that. And then also, if you need some liability, don't ask me. That's not my expertise. You need to talk to Donald because he knows, or some type of attorney that has some expertise in that area. I don't know anything about that. All I know is what Donald's been teaching me, and he's been teaching me a lot. So Donald, let's see, we talked about that. Did we? There is some other structures. There's the general partnership.
So the partnerships, there are a few different kinds of partnerships. We have your general partnership, which is unincorporated. It's an unincorporated business with 2 or more owners. Partnerships, well, a general partnership isn't exactly my favorites of the different types of business entities. And I can explain to you why. And then also, before I go into the general partnership liability, we have the limited partnership as well as the limited liability partnership. And if you are going to have a partnership, the limited liability partnership is probably one of my favorites if you're going to have a partnership. All right, so let's get into the liability of the general partnership just real quickly. Partners have unlimited liability. And so what that means is you have personal liability for all the business debts and liabilities, both owners, or if you have 2 or more, the owners are liable. All right. So that's why that one is not exactly one of my favorites. Now we have the limited partnership. In the limited partnership, in terms of liability, each general partner of the limited partnership has unlimited liability or personal liability. And so in a limited liability partnership, limited partnership, you have what's called a general partner and limited partner. And so both of those are in the limited partnership. The general partner has unlimited liability. They are personally liable for the business debts and liabilities of the business. Now, my favorite of the partnerships, the limited liability partnership, this one is usually you see professionals using this form of business entity. So lawyers, architects, engineers, accountants even will use this. And so the liability for this entity structure, the partners are not responsible for the debts of the limited liability partnership. And so that's why I believe this is probably the best one to go with if you're going to have a partnership. For those, if you have questions about a partnership, please give me a call. or, give another attorney a call. This is definitely something that, some people have engaged in and have tried. It's not my favorite, like I've said. And partnerships don't always work out so well. And just like any other business, your partnership can be sued. And so you have to really consider what is the best structure for your business. And having a general partnership or even a limited partnership isn't always the best call.
So we have a question that's here in regards to, it says, what would you suggest someone who makes over 100K to convert? I tell you right now, it's something to convert on SP. So it's an individual basis, because I would want to sit down and ask that person, what are your needs? What are you trying to do? What other income do you have? But I tell someone making 100K, look at it S corp. Like, look, you're moving into a 6-figure income. You want to look at, but you want to also see, what are your liabilities? What is going on? What is your future? What kind of assets do you have? That's what I would be thinking of, because some people need that income to qualify for things, and you take it out of there and then it's washed through, and it limits your buying power of things that you're trying to buy, a home or whatever. So I take it on an individual basis in regards to, I don't want to give a general, everybody, if you get over 100K, but I have to tell you that most accounting firms, most people will say, when you're in the 6-figure, you need to look and reevaluate your structure and make sure that your structure is appropriate for your business needs, and make sure that your structure fits where you want to go. So I would say that's a ding, ding, ding. That's something where I would kind of like think, okay, stop. What am I doing? Am I in the right place? What does my business plan look like? Where am I going? And do I need to talk to some people about what my needs are? So I hook into some experts like me. I hook into Donald, different people, and say, hey, this is my plans. This is where I'm going to go. Am I in the right place? So that's an individual consultation or discussion that I would have with people to get more information. But I tell you, it's certainly a spot where if you're making 100K, I would stop and make sure you are in the right place. I wouldn't just keep moving on and doing the same thing. So I really appreciate that question. That was a great question. What do you think, Donald? You think you can add any more to that question?
I think we've covered just about all of the ones that people normally see. Yes, there are some other forms of business structures that we can talk about. The nonprofit, which actually is a corporation. Nonprofits do have to register. We will talk. We will probably have a series on nonprofits, which is probably going to be separate, because nonprofits is a huge topic, both on the liability side, the tax side, and even just dealing with the setup for nonprofits. And so that will definitely be a workshop we will consider having if we're not already having it. And then also, there's some other things that, we can touch on just real quick. There are estate planning attorneys who deal with, trust and estates, who can even set up a trust for your family. And even, on the tax side, there may be some benefits for you and even your business for that matter. And so definitely, call around, talk to, get a tax advisor, an attorney who deals with whether it's corporate governance or, if you're big business, you may need an attorney for that, as well as, the labor and employment side. You may need an attorney for, if you're considering a trust and to do some estate planning, which I advise for all business owners. You can definitely get some good information from those resources, and it'll help you in the long run.
I really have talked to so many people, and my clients are huge, and I find that, and I hope you guys find this is very helpful to you, because it's so important that people don't understand the legal structure, the best structure for your business. And especially with the PPP and EIDL and all those that are going on now, it's like people are like, how do I apply? What do I apply? Am I a sole proprietor? What's going on? The grants and resources are going on. And you know, what we have found in this country right now is that business structure is critical. They used to, you know, had to hustle. It was okay. I was selling barbecue chicken on the blah, blah, blah. And I was doing balloons or whatever. But now, if you want to get this federal money, if you want to actually be counted and stand up and get things, you've got to have your business structure set up in a manner that IRS is acceptable, SBA is acceptable, that grants are acceptable. So, you know, we found that, you know, I talked to Selena, I love you. And Selena, her whole heart was, how do I help people? And her and I, we just like, come on, Selena, you better pop up on here. Selena's heart was, how do I bring people, expertise to the community so the community don't be left out, so the community can stand up and be in position to receive resources. And I'm telling you, and we're not charging you for this. This is information that's free information where we care and we're sharing. And I want to shout out to Selena and Lena and Dr. Dorena. You guys are just fantastic. Yeah, I'm sold into you. Okay, did I say the doctor's name wrong? Starks. Okay, let me get that right. Because I'm sold out for you guys. So Deneen Starks. So do you guys, Selena, did you want to join in? Or if they don't have any more questions, what we'll do is many more workshops to follow. This ain't it, y'all. Come on, Selena. Come on, girl. she the boss lady.
I want to thank you guys for taking the time out of your schedule to do this. I want everybody to know, like, we don't get paid to do this stuff. We're doing it because there's a need, and we want to make sure that our community is prepared. And like Pastor Kay said, that they're in a position to take advantage of the resources that are out here. So I want to thank you guys for taking the time out of your schedule to join us today. I want to thank my colleagues, Lena and Dr. Danae, who now has a new name, Dr. Darlene. We're going to wear her out tomorrow. But I want to, and Delina, that's it. My bad. Lena just texted me. But I just want to thank you guys. And if there are no more questions, there's no more questions in the comments, we will see you guys next Thursday. We moved it to Thursday. So next Thursday at 4:00, we will be doing a seminar, workshop on sole proprietors and partnerships, correct? Am I right?
No, LLCs.
LLCs, sole proprietors and LLCs. So yeah. Thank you guys all for coming. Thank you, Pastor Kay. Thank you, Donald. And you guys have a blessed week.
Thank you.
We'll see y'all.